swelling up inside of me this need to be creative and get my creative space back. If I add a piece here, then I'll have a longer edge along here. My first objective today, this is Monday. This is the first day I should be able to be creative in the studio. I can't find the fabric that I need to be creative with. So I went through all of what I had loosely laying around inside one bucket so that I could organize that. All of this belongs to Pick a Petal, and it's going to be put away. In doing this, I had hoped that I would turn up my fabric for the Mars quilt. It's got to be in this room. I'm just not used to my organization yet, and I don't have it completely done. I just barely got the cabinets done. Can you feel me? Like, does this ring a bell to any of you? This is from when I had the shingles and I was sitting in the chair and I was doing all my handwork for the Pick a Petal. And I had not put all that back together because, life kind of took other priorities and I just let it sit in this one bucket. Okay, I'm in a new studio, got my cabinets put together, all my fabric needs to get organized now, right? I'm not talking about pretty, Instagram pretty for fabric organization. I'm just talking about knowing where things are. All of this right here is Pick a Petal. And this stack right here, this is just a 2.5-inch strips that I'm using that coordinates with all this over here. And I'm about done actually with, the worst of the cutting that I have to do for a Pick a Petal. So, all of this will just become generalized fabric. But right now I'm keeping it isolated so I don't confuse it with any other project. So if I go and I look for, this particular fabric, I can find it, right? If I need just that. Not until that quilt is done can any of this be used for anything else, unless it's something really, minuscule. All right, so that doesn't solve the problem. Where's my Mars fabric? I am ready to get creative. Let's do this. Let's find it. It's got to be here. Ha, look, I found it. While I was looking for this stash, it was kind of camouflaged, number one, because I had a couple of things added to the top of it that was not part of the original stash for the Mars quilt. So I didn't look in this bin originally. So it was in plain sight. It was easy to find. But while I was organizing my fabrics, I identified some others that might work well as part of our crust for the Mars quilt. And while I was thinking about the Mars quilt, I thought of an alteration I might make to the final design. I'll show you that in just a second. First, I'm going to dig out a little bit of my fabric so I can get started. I've got to at least make some forward steps into being creative before I stop for lunch. I'm so excited to be able to use my rotary cutter again, to be able to sew and use my sewing machine again. It's like it just has been swelling up inside of me, this need to be creative and get my creative space back. I haven't felt like myself without it. I'm wearing the wrong shirt. I should be wearing the other one, the one that says, "I'm sorry for what I said before I had my daily dose of studio time." I think I meant to wear that. I think I thought about it yesterday that I needed to wear that today, but I just didn't think about it. But that one is available on my store, which you can find linked in the YouTube description. What's next before I cut? I'm going to get my sewing machine powered up. I don't even have it plugged up. So I'm going to do that and I'm going to come back here and start cutting. First, let's evaluate what's needed. We don't know what to cut before we know what's needed, right? That right there could be the prettiest thing I've seen in a long time. Sewing machine is lit up. Whenever it first made that sound that it always makes when it first powers on, my heart flipped. It was great. You know that sound. Let me replicate it for you. Yes, that. Yes. All right, now let's get busy. I think what I want to do first is fill in that area that's just to the top of the quilt and try to get that rounded look that we're looking for. If I start filling in what I have already, I think I'll feel more like I'm moving towards some kind of completion than just randomly filling in. Like I just want to really fill in one section and then move on from there, get that good and rounded. That's my philosophy at the moment. If I can get that quadrant looking like it's going to be a circle, I'll feel more like I'm actually making serious progress. Something visible, a a progression point that is visible. I could go about this kind of willy-nilly and just kind of plug in different pieces in different sections. But until I start seeing something that looks like it's taking me over that tipping point, I've used that word a lot lately, but until I get something that really tells me I'm making some serious progress, I'm not going to feel great about it. And I want to feel great. And I want you guys to start believing that I can actually do something creative again, not just worry about the long arm and not just, which is very creative. And even my studio space was very creative. But it's time for us to get back to the fundamentals of things. And this is where we're starting. So I'm going to start filling in. I think what I need is, pardon the interruption, please. I'm going to keep this very quick for you. I just have a quick appeal. I would ask you, please, to subscribe to this channel. We're sitting at 3,200. I'd love to get to 4,000 by, the middle of March or the end of March. I'm not going to complain if we get to 5,000, of course. One more thing, if you could also remember to send in your blocks for Avery Quilts, I'd really appreciate that too. Trying to build our community and trying to build our reach on this channel so that we can build the community so that we can do more stuff like the Legacy Makers hashtag Avery Quilts, and so that we can just have more fun being creative together. And on that note, I'll send you back to the video you came here to watch. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. I think what I need is something that's about, maybe a whole 10 inches by about 24 inches. And that's what I'm going to work on. That's what I'm going to try to achieve before lunch. And if I can get that done and see what that looks like, then I think I'll be able to enjoy lunch. Here we go. I am so excited. Okay. I guess I really should have evaluated my colors over there before I stepped away. Let's go with a lot of contrasting colors here, which is all we really need. So I think at some point we're going to put a little bit of fish in the crust of our Mars quilt. I want to show that there is life on Mars. We just haven't found it yet, but it's been found, and the future that this quilt represents, it's been found. I don't know if I'm going to use these fish or these fish. We'll have to think about that, but that's not for today. I'm going to keep this out in my stash, however, because I want to make sure I don't forget about it. I've got several options here that are to be used as part of the back. I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do on the back. I've found a fabric, I think it's Fat Quarter Shop that has it. There's a panel of an astronaut that I think would be fantastic, but I'm not there yet. I hope they still keep it. I'm not ready to purchase anything like that just yet. Okay, I like that one. I like that. I got that maybe for the back too. Doesn't that look like it belongs like on some spaceship? You know, it's the motherboard of the spaceship. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to the really fun stuff. We got to have different colors. They got to contrast a little bit. We have reds and grays and oranges and blacks and, did I say grays? Different kinds of grays. Let's do that one. I think this is a good starting point. Let's work with this and see what we get. Let's just start. Stop talking and start. Okay. I had a method to what I was doing back when I first started this, and it took me a little while to get there. And I don't know if I'm going to have an easy time remembering it or not, but I'm not going to worry about it. I know it'll come back to me. Just know that I need to cut some pieces and start adding to it. It's kind of like a log cabin, you know, but it's not as rhythmical, as a log cabin. It's not like you're taking a square, adding to one side and going around in a circle. It's a lot more raggedy than that, like you would find in sedimentary rocks that earthquakes are, making them shift, and they pile on top of each other, and then they crumble and they pile on top of each other, and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm trying to recreate. Alrighty. A ruler is back in my hand. A rotary cutter is back in my hands. This is fabulous. All right, I've cut a section. We have a little piece. See that? Move that so you can see what's going on a little bit. All right, just add a little bit of gray to it. I think what I did last time is I kind of measured. It's like a 5.5. I'm going to need at least that. It's got to be wide enough that you can take a 1/4 inch seam on either side. I'm going to add that to that and see what we get and add to it. Like I said to you guys yesterday in the video where we were talking about the Avery quilts blocks, that it is a matter of cut, sew, press, cut, sew, press, cut, sew, press. It's not a fast process, but it is kind of mindless. It's just enough thought to your brain's engaged, but you're not stressed, and that's a good thing. Beginner piece. Let's find a different fabric. Let's put a little bit of red and white in there. Looks like a zebra stripe. That's a good piece right there. I don't mind having to get up and down from my chair while I'm working. There's something healthy about that. It's good for the body to move. It's good for the legs to pump some blood, So, it's okay. All right, progress. So I'm going to straighten out an edge here and then add something here. And then I think I'll add something to here because I'll have more. You'll see in just a second. If I add a piece here, then I'll have a longer edge along here. That makes sense? Why don't we add a little bit of orange? This is how your fabric becomes a mess really quickly. Now that I've added a piece here, I can come in and make this line straighter so I can add a seam to it or add a fabric to it. So I'm putting my ruler on that, following along the red and white, and whatever angle that is, I'm just continuing on the orange. See, that's one nice straight edge now. You won't believe what I did. I totally forgot. It's been so long since I've actually sewn. I totally forgot that my machine has a cutter on it for cutting my threads. So silly. So silly. Getting that out of the way. Okay, what do we want to add to this? I think maybe some actual black. Don't you think it could use black over here? Something dark. I always have a hairband. While my hair is long, I have a hairband on my wrist, especially here in the winter time. But no, I think I do it year round because it gets my hair out of my way really quickly. I don't like to wear my hair pulled back. It kind of irritates my scalp. So I know you guys have seen it before, but I'm just saying you're going to see a lot of it. Okay, where have I been cutting on this? There it is. I planned on getting my hair cut back beginning of this month, but instead I got really sick. Best laid plans. All right, so you can see what I've done. So I started with, what was that one, wasn't it? I added beside it, and then I went to the top, and then I went over to this other side. Now I'm over here. So I'm getting some height. I got to start getting some width too. So I'm going to add something here that makes this a little bit wider. Then I think what my next position will be to come in and add something here. So I'm growing width and height at the same time so that everything's not running parallel, Okay. So what do we want to put right here? What kind of color? What do we have? Some oranges. There's already orange there, but I do have other kind of oranges. How about just a true red to go right there? Let's do that. Every once in a while, you got to have a nice pop of red. Got red there, and we've got this dusty red. Do they have clay on Mars? I don't know. I do think, actually, not kidding, I do think that what I have seen of images of Mars is that it's a kind of a dusty red. You know, it's not a brilliant red like what we're doing here, but we're making up our own little narrative. So I made my cut just kind of willy-nilly, not completely willy-nilly, but I made sure that I had an edge long enough to match up to this. But I didn't want it to be a rectangle. So I angled this and I angled that with a little curve in it so I can get creative with whatever I add to the next one. See? It's coming together, coming together. I'm about half the width I need, not quite, but close. And, maybe a third of the height that I need. And I'm hungry, so I better stick with it here. Don't have any grays. Let's add, well, we have a little bit of gray. But I'm kind of thinking that this needs to be in there. Kind of auditioning it. I think that'll look good on top. I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine with this one. I'm going to audition it a little bit more. Do I want my striations going horizontal? Or do I want it going vertical or on a diagonal? That might be cool. That might be cool. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just cut a diagonal. It's about that width. Let me get a good angle on what I'm adding here. Voila. I like the fact that this is on a diagonal. That's good. Okay. What's next? I think I make a cut here so I can add a piece over here. And then that's going to give me something I can add on to on this section. This technique is a little wasteful, so you don't really necessarily want to use your most prized fabrics unless, it's a really special quilt for you. Then, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. All right. I think we can put a little bit of that. Cut a piece long enough to go there. Yes. I should have made it a little bit longer, but it's okay. I can come in here and cut this edge or cut an edge from here at a diagonal and add to that. And then make sure that it has an angle to it so I can come in and add over here to that new piece. I want to get some height before I start adding any more width for a little bit here. Let's see what's next. Maybe some proper brown. Let's see, what did I say? I just say I needed to do. Yes. So now I have a straight edge that is that long, and I'm going to add to that. If I'm trying to grow this, I really should use more than just a little piece like that. Can't be afraid of bias edges doing this technique either. Like, it's just going to happen. It's just going to be part of the deal. Just going to be part of it. So you got to be careful not to stretch things, not to pull on it, especially before you get it basted and stitched, right? Yay, we're getting some height. That feels good. That feels good, getting some height to it. Okay, what do I want to add? I think we've got a lot of darkness over here, so we need to add something that's bright or light. So I could add this. This really pops. I don't have a lot of orange. Let's add some orange. Just a little bit of orange. Yeah, that'd be a good one. I don't know. It still kind of reads dark. I'm going to go with it and just have a little sliver in there. Not going to overthink it. This is just a small piece of the bigger picture, right? Going to need my bigger ruler. One of the nice things about having metal table legs is that I can have magnetic hooks, so I can have my rulers handy but out of the way. So I have a decision to make, right? There's a little bit of a bend here. So do I want to follow this red line and go at this direction? Or do I want to follow this black line and go that direction? I'm going to follow the black line because as I do that, I'm not interrupting any other seams. If I go this direction and continue on, I'm going to be cutting into this and making this area smaller. It's okay to cut into it, but that's so small already, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to carry that black line and straighten that out. And that's all that was cut. Yay, yay, yay. What did we say we're going to put on here? Some orange, I do believe. Yes. Okay. We're getting somewhere. We started off with this. Probably about as high as we need to go right now. So I'm going to start adding. See how it's going to look like there's a dividing line because I did not go wider before I went taller. But I can fix that, right? Like I can cut into this at a diagonal here. I think I'll do that. So I'll come in and I'll add something, a little wedge here that I can then add to this. So it's not like there's going to be a really harsh line all the way up. Does that make sense? Hope so. Okay, what do I want to put there? If it's not going to be, I might just do a little bit of this red and white again. I know it's going to be close to the other one. I think maybe we put some darker gray against all that bright white and red. Well, that's a good piece right there. I'm not even going to cut the outside, just going to cut a nice straight edge. I think it'll fit nicely. Nice little happenstance. Better trim this up too. Yeah. So this is where I need to add a piece. And I don't, I was trying not to make it look like there was just one long seam. So I had a little bit of an angle here. I'm going to increase the angle here so that I can add it on to this piece. But I don't want it to be quite as sharp as what that is already. I'm going to change that direction. You'll see. Hang on. I need to find my overhead tripod for you guys so I can put my camera back over our workstation. I don't know where it got off to in the middle of all this. So some of this is going to be usable, so I'm not putting that over there in the trash. That might even be usable. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so now we have another long piece, right? So, Dawn, why is it okay to have this long piece when you didn't want the other long piece? Well, I think it's because of the direction that I see it going on the quilt. I didn't want a vertical seam to go over the top of the Mars civilization. Okay, what are we going to put here? I think I might do a nice long piece of this. If we have a piece long enough. We do. Yes, we do. Yeah, I like that color. I'm going to wish I had more of this. I may have to see if I can find it. This is just a nice red. It's all throughout the crust of the quilt already. If you are a high anxiety member of the quilt police, I'm about to show you something that's going to really stress you out. You see that? I pressed it open until all those points meet, and then I just folded it back the other direction, and then I pressed open again. And now it feels smooth, and it's not going to break a needle when I go to quilt it, and nobody's going to care, besides those of you I just told. All right, I think we need to put this up there on the board and see where we are before we go forward. So let's do that. All right, where do I want to put this? If I put it right there, it's definitely going to fill in that area. I'd have to come down a little bit, right? Which is fine. I need to put some pins in that and hold it so I can stand back and look at it. Okay. And that's going to blend right in. It needs to be a little bit wider on the left and right side, and then filled in dramatically from the right. I think what I want to do is I want to, after lunch, I'm going to come back up and I'm going to add to this section, and then I'm going to fill it in to over here. And that'd be my objective for today. I won't force you guys to watch all the nuances of that. I just think that you'll want to see, now that you've seen how a block's going together, I'll just work through this and then I'll show you the results. But that's my approach right now. While I'm having a change of plans, I kind of hit a wall. I went downstairs, I had some chicken and some shrimp, something I don't normally do. I don't normally have shrimp, but I just wanted a little bit of variety in the meats that I'm having. So I had bought some frozen shrimp and I just kind of sauteed that up and just kept on procrastinating coming back up because I was tired. Okay, you can do this, Dawn. So I had a little bit of coffee, put my electrolytes in it, and then fixed up an electrolyte drink, try to boost myself. And I'm still tired. So I'm going to listen to my body, and my body's saying, don't be physical. And getting up and down to cut and sew is kind of physical. So I'm not giving up on the idea that I can get back to that today, but in case I only get another hour or so of productivity out of my day, in the quilting room anyway, I'm going to do it doing something sedentary. And that's all these quilts that I did on the long arm already. I'm going to bury the threads on them. This one was Jody's. Remember this one? I'm just going to look through and make sure wherever there were some thread breaks that the threads are tied off, because it's 61 degrees outside. If I was feeling more energetic, I would just say, change of plans. I'm going to go outside and do something. Well, I do have two really constructive things I need to do outside. And one of those is to rearrange the dog fencing so they can have a little bit more running around room. And the other is to take these out and to get videos of them and, photos of them outside, with them having a pretty backdrop. But before I do that, I need to bury the threads. So I'm not outside like I wish I was. I may go outside and just sit for just a little bit so I can get some sunshine on my face, but I got to do something more productive in the studio before I do that. So, yeah, I can't wait to show all these to you. This one, I forgot to show you. This one is Sherry's. We looked at the front of that before, so I'll show that to you later. I don't want to open it right now. And then this is one of the sample charity ones. It's very densely quilted. We'll look at that more closely. But see, there's some long threads on this one that I left intentionally. And those are typically the ones on the very edge, so those are fine. But I know that this one is the one that I had such a big learning curve on. So there's a lot of thread breaks. I had problems with, what was it? It was my operating system had to be updated, all kinds of things like that. And then there's this one. So instead of going in order of how I did them, I'm actually going to go in order of the viewers. Like this is another one of the sample ones. I think that's so pretty. It's just so sweet. I swear, you can go simple block construction, if you use beautiful fabrics, it's just going to be dreamy regardless. You just can't mess up. So I'm not going to go in the order in which I actually quilted them. I'm going to prioritize doing the ones that were sent to me by viewers so I can get those in the mail to them so they can get them and get them bound. And I've made a mess of this one. It's a little bitty and it's falling apart and I can't put it back together while I'm on camera. One of the things that I miss about having my head fused to my body is being able to tuck my chin to hold a sheet up. I just can't do that anymore. And so that slows me down a little bit because that's just how I always did it. But it's not the end of the world, is it? Okay, let me put this one aside and put this one aside because that was another charity one. And then I'm going to start with Jody's because I think it had like almost no thread breakage. I want to get Jody's and Sherry's done. If all I get done is those today, and then maybe get a little bit more energy, and then I can do a little bit more on the Mars quilt. That would be a good plan for the day, I think. Sometimes you just got to roll with it. And that's why I have the motto of keep moving the needle. Like just because I can't do what I set out to do doesn't mean I can't be productive. You move the needle here, move the needle here, move the needle here, and then all of a sudden you have many, many areas that are advanced. And, when you have a surge of energy, you can come back around and finish up some of those, which is what we're doing here with the Mars quilt. But my energy isn't there today, and it just isn't. I don't know why it's lower today than it's been. Not going to second guess that. I'm sure the fact that I was sick earlier this month had some factor in it, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to roll with it. So I'm going to sit here and do this, and then we'll see what's next. Of course, let's not forget about our Avery Quilts blocks. This is our first set of submissions, and I cannot wait to add to them. If you have any blocks that you would like to add to these, or if you'd like to start a different theme, whether it be color or subject matter, whatever, just send it in and we'll start a quilt for that because we're going to need to make a lot of quilts. I don't know yet what size. I'm thinking like I've got 42 to 50 inches square in my head. So it's a good cuddle quilt. I don't think we have to make twin size quilts. We just want something that's good and cuddly size. So you can see it wouldn't take but, 3 or 4 of these and maybe some sashing sometimes. We're just going to make them simple and sweet, something that's very doable so we can produce a lot because there's a lot of patients on the transplant waiting list. If we make the production easy and don't do sashing, it's going to help. But sashing isn't necessarily hard. I don't know. We'll worry about how we put it together later. We can have fun doing that too. But right now, I just need more submissions. Post Office Box 75, Scottsboro, Alabama, 35768.